some of the greatest lessons they're going to learn is when they do fail and when they do mess up, when they don't make the team, when they don't make the grade, when they don't make the club, whatever it may be. And that could be the thing that really is the biggest lesson that they're going to learn in their life. But we're not allowing them to learn that lesson because we're always coming in and saving them.
I've always told my kids, you need to take the first few steps. You go speak to the teacher, you go speak to your coach. If you get to a point, perhaps, where there really is justification for a parent to get involved, we will, but you have to advocate for yourself first.
I think we've got to step back and let kids struggle and fail and feel stress. Stress inoculates kids against stress.
We have to look at, why do we do it? What is uncomfortable for us that we're having trouble sitting through and processing, so that we have this need to rescue them?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Paula Ferris Show. I'm your host, Paula, and we are doing a month-long series on teenagers and parenting. We jumped out of the gate with a conversation about the gaslighting of parents and how we are told to believe that lie that we only have 18 summers with our kids. That was the first episode. And then last week, we talked about the mental health crisis amongst our teens and the direct relation to technology and social media. And this week, we are talking about whether or not we are raising soft kids and building resiliency and allowing our kids to fail. I'm once again joined by therapists Sissy, Goff and Niro, Feliciano, but we also have my husband, John, in the house for this conversation. So one thing we need to acknowledge is that we are the first generation of parents to care about the emotional well-being of our children, and that's putting an extra layer and level of pressure on us as parents. It kind of gets back to that first conversation earlier in the month we had about the myth of 18 summers and how challenging it is to be a parent here in America. But because we're putting so much pressure on ourselves as parents, we're passing some of that along to our kids, and we aren't really requiring much of them, and we're not letting them fail. So within this conversation, you're going to hear the role that we as parents are playing in all of this, that we don't expect much from them. We don't let them fail. And the dangerous message that sends to our kids, and it's this: we're implying that they're not capable. We're telling them, you're not capable, when we don't let them fail. And that's why they are soft and why they don't have a lot of resiliency. But we will discuss how we can build resiliency within our kids. And Niro is going to share a beautiful story about how her daughter normalized failure and built resiliency. As always, we keep these conversations going in my personal newsletter at paulaferrisofficial.com. If you're not getting it, what are you waiting for? Love to engage with you and share what you, the community, are also going through within these conversations. So paulaferrisofficial.com is where you can sign up for that. Stick around for my takeaways, but let's jump into this conversation: how to raise kids who are capable. And Sissy's going to drop this quote on you. She dropped it on me, and I'm still thinking about it. And it's this: stress inoculates kids against stress. They have to be stressed. They have to fail in order to build that resiliency. Enjoy. Okay, I think this is a good time for you all to meet my husband. Sissy, I can't believe you've never met John.
I can't either. I'm so happy.
I think if we had a drinking game, in our home, about how many times I mentioned Sissy Goff and David Thomas in my parenting, John, we might be inebriated like 24/7, because I'm like, well, Sissy told me this, and I heard this from David Thomas. But John, meet Sissy.
Nice to meet you, Sissy.
Nice to meet you, John.
You are the fourth part of the Trinity. And yeah, David's the fifth.
And then Niro Feliciano, she is a psychotherapist, and she's based in Connecticut. John, she's awesome. She is a mom of 4, and I'm really been loving getting to know her. So John, meet
Where
Niro.
where in Connecticut?
In Ridgefield, Connecticut.
Okay. All right.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
John, I really wanted you to weigh in. You weren't able to join our previous conversations. The first one was about pushing back against the lie that we only have our kids for 18 summers. And the second conversation was about the mental health crisis amongst teens and the direct correlation to tech. But I really wanted you to bring your voice to the conversation about not having 18 summers. Like, we have more than 18 summers with our kids. You brought up something to me a couple of weeks ago, and it had to relate to golf, right?
Yeah.
I'd leave it to John to bring some humor to this conversation. So we'll jump into today's conversation about resilience, but I wanted him to bring this funny perspective.
Yeah, I don't have the exact stat. I wish I had it in front of me, but it came up on like Golf Digest that if you play golf with your kids, you'll spend like an extra 3,000 hours with them in your lifetime. Just because every time you go play golf, it's an extra 4 hours. There's time in the car before, there's dinner or something afterwards. So that's my motivation for playing so much golf, Paula. I just want to be a better father. That's really it. Not because I love the game and obsessed with competition.
No, he loves, and as you
That's
can see
amazing.
behind him, there's a picture of Augusta National. He loves golf. So that's his justification of golfing, is he gets to spend more time with the kids.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair
That's what we're
enough.
going with.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Okay. All right. Are you guys ready to jump into the conversation about resilience?
Yes.
Let me just open it up. Are we raising soft kids, Sissy? And I'm pretty sure I know what all of you guys are going to say. Sissy, are we raising soft kids?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I mentioned that I'm up here at our little summer camp program called Hopetown. And we had some middle school girls here the last day of camp. At our camp, they make their meals and they clean up every day. And the last day, they actually changed their sheets. And this one girl loudly said, I think we need to be playing It's a Hard Knock Life while we're making our beds.
Are you?
So that's my answer.
Okay. Niro, are we raising soft kids?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am. And I am a therapist. And I think part of it, and I'll speak to what I see in my own household, is because I see the pressure on them academically and what they have to do. And I'm talking about now older teenagers, the sports, how they have to travel so far for one game, and the amount of free time they have is diminished, compared to us going out in the street and coming in when the sun came down. So I know that there are things that I do for them that they absolutely can do for themselves, but it's a factor of time. Now, there are other reasons that I think parents also overindulge their kids, do more than they need to. And I love Sissy's advice always is what's one thing they can do for themselves that you're doing, or that they can almost do for themselves that you're doing, and encourage them to do it. And that's really made a huge impression on me. I've thought about that a lot. But for us, it's often a matter of time. They're totally capable of doing their own laundry, and they should. But I know now, especially seeing how little they sleep because of all the demands on them, there are things that they don't do for that reason.
John, are we raising, and I'm not saying society, but are you and I raising soft kids?
I would say yes, but we're trying not to. Like we understand society, it's different, but I just think we love our kids more than our parents loved us. And I'm just being completely honest. And maybe
It's
that's
true.
not the truth, but it's just how they show it. Like they were so fine with just being disconnected from us. And we just want to be connected to our kids all the time. And we want to be around them. We want to watch all their sports. And we want to be at every concert. We want to be involved in every aspect of their lives. And when I think about my parents, I don't know if they were involved in 50% of my life. I felt like there was just a lot of things I did on my own. And maybe that was why, we are a little tougher than they are.
Yeah. I spent a good hour today with our youngest, John, and you guys were gone, and he doesn't really, we live on a lake. It's more of a retirement community. He doesn't have a lot of friends in the area or in the neighborhood because there aren't many little kids. And he's like, will you just throw the football with me? And I find myself, he wants me to play with him a lot more because he doesn't have playmates. I cannot recall my parents ever playing. Like my dad, yes, would catch the ball for me when I was playing softball and that sort of thing. But I mean, my mom would be like, go play, come back at lunch. And then I'd come back for lunch, go play, come back for dinner. And so much more was expected of us too growing up. And I do think we are trying to raise resilient kids. But to your point, Niro, they're doing so much. Like there's so much asked of them academically. And there's so much pressure on them to compete and to perform that I think we are doing too much. But at the same time, we're cutting them off at the knees when we don't give them an opportunity to do it and to gain confidence in doing so. And we talked earlier, Sissy, that we're the first generation of parents to care about our kids' emotional well-being. How much is that really playing into the resilience epidemic in our kids?
I think it certainly is. And part of what I think is complicated is, I mean, as much as we were talking about anxiety last time, I definitely believe we have this epidemic of anxiety in our world. And at the same time, I think anxious kids are some of the most manipulative kids out there, often, because they feel like survival is dragging you into this with me. I can't get out of this on my own, and I'm not even sure I want to.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier if you step in and rescue me. And in those books, we talk a little bit about the anxiety books that I wrote. But the definition I came up with in all the research is anxiety is an overestimation of the problem and an underestimation of themselves. And so, in effect, when we step in and rescue them from the hard thing, whatever it is, and I mean, I have talked to parents who threatened to sue the school when their child didn't make cheerleading. I mean, so many different things. I know, Niro, you have too. And when we do that, when we step in and fix it for them, they believe it is too hard. It's too much, and I'm not capable. I'm not ready for this. Rather than when we let them figure it out with a lot of support, with a lot of reminders, a lot of encouragement, we're saying you're capable of doing it, and you don't need me to step in.
Yeah. Niro, what are you seeing in your practice, and what would you tell parents? Yes, we know that there is a resilience epidemic amongst kids. Does a large portion of it exist because we are stepping in too much to save our kids and because we don't require them to have skin in the game and we don't allow them to fail? Is a large portion of it on us as parents because we're doing too much for them?
I think that's a big part of it. I mean, if you think back to when we were in school, how many times did your parents talk to a teacher or disagree with a teacher or argue with a coach or talk your way into some sort of position? It did not exist.
Right.
We didn't do it. And here it's so commonplace. And I do constantly think about when we do not encourage our kids to advocate. And I've always told my kids, you need to take the first few steps. You go speak to the teacher, you go speak to your coach. If you get to a point, perhaps, where there really is justification for a parent to get involved, we will, but you have to advocate for yourself first, because as Sissy said, you're sending them the messages that they are capable of doing it and they're going to have to learn to do it. When we do it, we're inadvertently saying to them, you're not capable. You're not capable. But I think for so many parents, we have to look at why do we do it? What is uncomfortable for us that we're having trouble sitting through and processing so that we have this need to rescue them? It starts with dealing with some of our own issues in sitting with that discomfort. And I remember, and Sissy knows this, when my youngest daughter was dealing with a phobia and she was experiencing panic attacks. And there was one time where I knew she was going to be in school. And this kid, for months, I would get her in the building, but she did not attend a class in her classroom. I just knew that we had to get her in the building, even if it took an hour and a half that morning.
Right.
So I had texted her therapist and I had asked her therapist a question, who is a friend of mine. And she wrote me back right away. And she goes, you know the answer to that. And I was like, oh, I do. I know what I'd say to somebody else. But I was so uncomfortable in myself that I had to fix that issue first. I had to fix that issue first. So I think looking at some of our motivations as to why we do that, some of our own distress tolerance, literally, are we able to tolerate our own level of distress and why are we feeling distressed? Those are important things for parents to consider.
Okay, you guys, so I'm almost 50 years old and I am in the throes of perimenopause. I did not think that a good night's sleep was possible. Here's how it usually plays out in my home. I'll go to bed and I'm freezing and I pile a ton of covers on, and then I wake up in the middle of the night and then I have to shed all of those covers. This is a vicious cycle that I have been in for over 10 years until now because of Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets. You need to run, not walk, but run to get yourself a set of these sheets. They are made from bamboo. They naturally wick away the heat and the moisture from your body, so they help you to sleep several degrees cooler. I promise you, you're going to get the best sleep of your life. They also have a 10-year warranty and a 100-night sleep trial. So try them out. If you don't love them, if you aren't sleeping cooler, return them hassle-free. But trust me, you're going to want to keep them. And right now you can get 40% off if you use my code Paula. Go to CozyEarth.com, use the code Paula, 40% off. Run, don't walk to get yourself a set of these sheets. because your bed should be more than a place to sleep. It should be your happy place. And Cozy Earth makes that possible and a whole lot cooler. John, what do you think? Do you think that we're intervening too much for our kids? I know that you push back a lot towards me, especially when it comes to sports. But you also have a different perspective because you're a coach, so you don't want to hear from the parents. But do you think that we're stepping in too much to save them? I think in a lot of areas we are, but we've been more cognizant of late to let them fail and let them learn from it and then ask them what they've learned from it.
I think that's the issue. We want our kids to just be successful in everything in life, and we want them to be the best at everything in life. And reality is they're not going to be, and that's okay. And some of the greatest lessons they're going to learn is when they do fail and when they do mess up, when they don't make the team, when they don't make the grade, when they don't make the club, whatever it may be. And that could be the thing that really is the biggest lesson that they're going to learn in their life. But we're not allowing them to learn that lesson because we're always coming in and saving them. And so I do try to just stay out of the way a little bit more than you, Paula. And that's how we kind of balance each other out. And sometimes I've had to talk you off some ledges, that's for sure. But I it's like, we can't save them from themselves. I mean, obviously, if it's something serious, yes. But they've got to learn on their own, because that's when true growth will happen, when they experience it, not when it's been given to them or provided for them.
Yeah, and I think, and then opening up that conversation to, okay, what did we learn from this, right? And it's an opportunity for growth. Growth comes in the discomfort. Growth comes in the failures, too. Sissy, you probably see this a lot. Parents don't want their kids to fail. Like, no parent really wants their kids to fail. I'm not saying, woohoo, my kid just failed. But how necessary is that in parenting and allowing our kids to fail? What does that look like? How do we allow our kids to fail and fail forward and kind of change the mindset on failure? That it's not failure, failure's a down payment on success. How do we let our kids fail?
I think we have to get out of our own way. I believe kids are more risk averse than they've ever been because I don't think they tolerate failure. I don't think they want to try something unless they know they're going to be able to do it really well out of the starting gate. And so I think not only do we have to set our own stuff aside in terms of, as Niro talked about, them being an extension of you and all of those things, but I think we have got to put them in places. I will say to parents of perfectionists a lot, I want you to do something together as a family that no one does well, and I want you to laugh at yourselves in the process. Because those of us who are perfectionists do not know how to laugh at ourselves. And what a gift.
Yeah.
And I want you to talk as a parent about your own sense of failure. So all of those things, because it has so much lasting good. I mean, we know suffering leads to perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. I mean,
yeah, it's true.
That is a very significant path. And I would say I would not be, literally, y'all, I would not be an author, speaker, doing the things that I'm doing if I hadn't not made cheerleading in 7th grade. Genuinely. It moved me into leadership positions, and I started doing so many of the things I'm doing in a different way today. And those are the things we're stepping in and trying to rescue them, or 5 jillion private lessons, so there's no way they'll fail. Again, private lessons aren't bad. There's so much grace in all these places, but I think we've got to step back and let kids struggle and fail and feel stress. Stress inoculates kids against stress. They've got to learn to do those things.
And when we step in, one thing that frustrates me is if a parent will call the employer and say, my kid can't come into work. Like, let your kid do it themselves. They're perfectly capable. One thing, and I know he's a little controversial, Ken Wilgus, he is a counselor and a therapist. He talks about planned emancipation. John and I loved our conversation with him. He says, one of the most frustrating aspects of parenthood is we've extended childhood past the appropriate point. Like 13 is a bar mitzvah and a bat mitzvah. In the Jewish cultures, that celebrates the rite of passage into adulthood. Kids are capable of so much more. I mean, they were leading armies at 16 and 17 years old, in ancient history, taking over the farm. We've extended it well past its means. And Ken even said something. John, do you remember what he said about teenagers? It wasn't even a term until like the 1940s, right? It was like, and if you would have asked anybody, 100 years ago about their teen, they wouldn't even know what that term was. They wouldn't describe teenagers as angsty, attitude-ridden, and emotional. They wouldn't have used any of these terms because kids had more responsibility and more was expected of them. And they are capable of so much more. So with that said, Niro, what would you tell parents about not only letting kids fail, but expecting more out of them and making sure they have skin in the game?
Yeah, I think we have to normalize failure more. And especially, we can talk about our failures and what it did for us. But I think it's really also important to recognize now that failure is a very public thing for them, more so than it was for us. It is photographed, it is documented, it is talked about, news gets around really fast. So they're also dealing essentially with a life that, they all have their own paparazzi, essentially, right? Everything that they do, people know about really fast. And we didn't have that pressure in experiencing failure the way they do. So I can tell you like a great story. When my oldest turned 16 here in Connecticut, you get your driving permit the day that you turn 16. You can get it on your birthday. And this kid, she's a smart kid. She's a hard worker. I don't think she ever failed anything academically in her life. So we're like, we're going to get it on your birthday.
Classic firstborn.
Yes.
Classic firstborn. I'm one of them, but like side note, I dropped out of med school. So yeah, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing either if not for that. But she texted me as soon as she took her test and she called me. She goes, "Mom, I failed." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Your permit? This kid's going to be you next year, So as she came into the car, she was really upset. And she was like, "I can't believe I failed. Like, it's my birthday." And I said, "You know what, Natalia? You just have to own it. Just own it. And if you're okay with it, other people are going to be okay with it." And all of a sudden, I saw her take out her phone, and she was photographing the failed on her test. And I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Fans are waiting. I'm letting people know." And she posted it. And all of a sudden, she got these messages back. "Oh my gosh, I failed too. I failed too." She goes, "Who would have known? All these people failed their permit tests." So if we can normalize it in that way, as it's expected, it's a part of life. It is the thing that's going to help direct you and strengthen you and get you better at whatever it is you want to get better at. It becomes a little bit different, and it starts in the home in our conversations about it.
Mm-hmm, totally. And I remember, John, a pivotal time. So Caroline, our oldest, has played volleyball since she was in 6th or 7th grade and travel volleyball. And when we moved here to South Carolina, she didn't make the school team. And I remember, John, you were
middle school.
Well, well, there was middle school. Yeah, so this was middle school.
So it wasn't even very good volleyball, by the way.
Okay. But anyway, it actually happened twice. She didn't make a travel team when we were living in New York. And then when we moved here, she didn't make the school team. And I remember, John, you having conversations with her like, okay, this is normal, right? And you can go two routes. You can allow this to make you bitter, or you can allow it to make you better. What do you want? Do you want to keep playing volleyball? If you do, allow it to fuel you. And what did she do that year? The year in between she didn't make it, and then the next year, what happened?
Yeah, she went from not making the team to making the varsity high school team her freshman year. So she chose I'm going to get better and I'm going to use this to fuel me. And she doubled down on her training and got after it. But I remember this conversation because that's what we did. Like, I didn't tell her, well, you need to do this. If you got it, like, what do you want? Here's your options. 2 options. You choose either options. I support you. I love you. And I'll empower you either way. But you have to make that decision. And when she did, we were right there by her side, but it was her decision. We made that very clear to her.
Yeah.
That's a great question to ask too. What do you want?
Yes.
Because automatically we're assuming what they want. Many parents do, and they do exactly what you didn't do. Well, this is what you have to do, and this is the next thing, and this is how it's going to work.
Yeah.
But that's a really great question to ask. What do you want?
Yeah. Look at you, so wise, John.
Maybe I should get some credentials. Maybe I should have a doctorate or something.
Yes.
You could have a doctorate in golf, playing golf.
Okay.
You could have a master's No pun intended, the master's degree.
I would like that, but I'm not as good as those guys.
One thing that I really love about James Clear, who has written Atomic Habits, I had him on my podcast probably like a year ago, and he has young kids. And he said one of the things that he's trying to build in his young kids at a young age is this mindset of failure and resiliency. And he says it's just something little, but it's how we talk about it. So we can shift our mindset on it. So he said, for instance, if they get hurt, instead of saying, oh my gosh, you're hurt, you scraped your knee, are you going to be okay? And babying them, he says to them, you're going to be okay. We're going to get through it. You're going to be fine. You're going to be tougher on the other end. So it's also how we react to something. Are we going to coddle them and almost victimize our kids in some way, make them feel like a victim and that they're owed something? Or are we going to say, you know what, you're tough. You're going to get through this. You're going to be just fine. Scrape it off. We'll be there for you. It's not being a jerk about it and not acknowledging their pain and their failure, but it's just saying, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. So how do we, as parents, kind of not only shift our mindset, but really foster that through the way that we talk about failure, through the way that we talk about resiliency and getting better through it?
Well, I think what we model is significant in that when we talk about our own hurdles at work or we talk about our own struggles with a friend even, that we say, oh, we got to a really hard place. And, we kept talking and eventually it got better. That we're just talking about the beauty and the change that comes from perseverance and comes from staying in the hard things because they're not going to see that. They're not going to do that inherently. And I think often parents can panic and think, well, they don't have any resilience or they don't have any internal motivation. Right. They don't. They grow that along the way.
Yes.
And so as we're modeling that, and even I always think it's cool to think about, every one of the four of us could, if we were to say, okay, the prompt is my mom always said, we all have answers to that question.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately. And I think, like we've talked about the differences in our parents and parents today, our moms often, our dads often were being more reactive. And as a parent today, you are more in tune emotionally. You have an opportunity to be proactive. And so what are some things you could say that are kind of mantras with your kids that you go back to? As simple, I always think, which I feel like, Niro, you and I would be on the same page certainly about this, but starting with empathy, that sounds really hard. Oh, that must have been really tough.
It's good.
I can't wait to see what you do with it. Or you can do hard things. Or you are such a smart kid. I can't wait to see what you figure out. That there's even this sense of not just belief, but anticipation in all the good that's coming out of them.
So good.
So we have these scripts we go back to over and over. I have a mantra that I'm using all the time with my 6-year-old nephew, a little bit scared, a whole lot of fun. That's resilience that we're working towards.
Yep. If it doesn't scare you a little bit, maybe it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good.
That's so good. It is. And I was thinking about that empathy piece too, because we do have to give them a moment to grieve whatever it is, because it is their experience with grief, these failures, these disappointments, especially if they haven't gone through real grief yet. This is all grief. So I think starting with that empathy is really important. And also it helps to establish your connection with them in those moments. We always say kids don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah.
So in sitting with them in that grief, I remember when my son didn't make one of the soccer teams, we were looking for him and he was sitting in his closet in the dark. That might be a safe place too, with like 3 sisters and a mom in the house.
Yes.
Learned, but I didn't try and convince him that he was good or it was going to turn out. I just said, can I come in there? And I sat with him in the dark and I said, this sucks. This really sucks. And that's all I needed to say at that point until he was ready to hear the question, what do you want next? Which I think just lends us from empathy to curiosity, which has to be those 2 steps before you can actually come up with a plan and have them actually hear what you're saying and have them come up with the plan, actually.
Yeah.
So
that empathy piece, I don't think I'm good at that. So that's a good reminder. Sorry, John, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to say a mantra that we have in our house, and we actually heard this from, one of Paula's very first imaginary boyfriends, Tom Brady. He would say he's never lost a game in his life. He's had an opportunity to learn what to do better next time. So he either wins or he learns.
That's
And
great.
we've tried to incorporate that into our kids. Like, all righty, you had success, you won this in this aspect, but you didn't fail. You never lost. It was just a learning opportunity on what you can do better next time. And if you just kind of have that, like, all righty, now I'm going to embrace this learning opportunity as opposed to sulking about the loss or the failure.
John, when you said a mantra in our home, I thought you were going to say, suck it up, buttercup, because we also say that. Hey.
That's mainly you. And that's usually actually, you say that to me, not our kids.
I'm trying to build resilience in my spouse.
That's warranted sometimes.
Oh.
That mantra is warranted sometimes.
We're modeling it for our children. So suck it up, buttercup. That's hilarious. Okay, this is great. Anything else that you guys want to say to put a button on this conversation?
I will say going through the college process has really taught me more about helping them accept rejection and failure because it's such a crazy process. And I was thinking about, as we were going through this, when the kids were little and when they would fall down and how they look at you for your reaction before they decide how they're going to react.
Yes.
And that is the same even at this monumental stage in their life. You know, and they say when they get their acceptance or rejection, you shouldn't be happier than them and you shouldn't be more devastated than them, which I thought was really good advice.
That's true about life with them.
It's true about life, but they're
so
looking
good,
to you to see how to react in many ways. And maybe their reaction's different in the moment, but if they know, okay, my parent is not ruffled by this, right? They must know something. They must know something that I'm not feeling right now. Like Sissy, like you said, thinking about all the good that's ahead. So we have a moment in those moments when they're experiencing failure or rejection for the first time to model that. And it does serve as an anchor for them as they're navigating it forward.
It's those mirror neurons. They will repeat the behavior that they see and hear from their parents. If we react in a positive way, then they will. If they, that's
Come on now, look at you.
I know, Paula with the neurology.
I know it. Hey, you know what? Even a blind squirrel can find a nut every now and then. So I pick up on a couple of things. And Sissy, I know that this topic is very near and dear to you. You say there's a resilience epidemic amongst our teenagers, and this might be something you're going to be talking about a lot more in the coming months and maybe early 2026. I'm just going to leave it at that, right?
Maybe so. We want kids to learn that they're capable.
I feel like we have to end this conversation, all four of us saying, suck it up, buttercup, at the same time. Or is that how we should close it? Is that how we should close it out? Suck it up, buttercup. Each one of us go around. John, you want to start out?
No, let's just do it at the same time.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Suck it up, buttercup. Oh, that was so bad. That was so bad.
All right, try that one again, Paula. You can lead it this time.
I think we should just allow ourselves to fail and be comfortable with it.
There you go.
I think we just did. I think we just did with that buttercup.
We really sucked it up. So that's okay. We're going to sit with our failure. And it's going to be fine.
And we're going to learn from it.
Yeah, we're going to learn to never try that again. All right, you guys. I'll see you for the next conversation. It's going to be a doozy about teen dating and friendship. I'm so grateful that John was able to jump into that conversation. And John, Niro, and Sissy are back for next week's conversation about teen dating and friendship as we kind of put a button on this month-long series about teenagers and parenting. Okay, I want to share with you an important caveat within this conversation about resiliency and failure and how we're raising soft kids in just a second. But I want to share with you my takeaways. And I think for all of us that are thinking, okay, yeah, we want something different for our kids. Maybe we need to let them fail a little bit more and build that resiliency. But how do we do it? Again, as Sissy and Niro said in this conversation, you have to stop saving them and you have to shift their mindset on failure and on tough stuff and let them fail and struggle. I love what James Clear, the best-selling author of Atomic Habits, shared with me on my podcast, and I shared it within this conversation, but it's just how we react to things. If our kid falls down and scrapes their knee, instead of reacting, oh my gosh, are you okay? Oh, honey, I'm so sorry, and freaking out, we just need to say, you're going to be fine. It's all right. You're tough. Not that we're not there for them, but the mirror neuron, the kids are going to pick up on how we react. And That's a great way to build resilience and just kind of shift their mindset on the tough stuff. Both Sissy and Niro said, what's one thing they can do for themselves that you're doing, or that they can almost do for themselves that you're doing? And then encourage your kid to do that. I think all of us can think of something. What are we doing for our kids that they could almost do or should be doing on their own? And again, when we do too much for them, we are telling them implicitly that they're not capable. Okay, so just think about one thing this week that you can stop doing for them, that they can do for themselves so that they're almost ready to do. Sissy says that she will say to parents who are also perfectionists, I want you to do something together as a family that no one does well, and then laugh at yourselves in the process. She says, as a parent, also talk about your sense of failure. We have to step back, let our kids struggle, fail, and feel stressed, because as she said, stress inoculates kids against stress. I feel like I need to get that on a t-shirt. Stress inoculates kids against stress. What a statement right there. What a statement. But as you expect more from them, share with them it's because you believe that they are capable. And the one caveat that I do want to share, and Niro brought this up, and I hadn't really thought about it when it comes to failure, is that failure is a very public thing for them. So much different than when we failed over and over growing up, and we continue to do so. But their failure is photographed. Their failure is documented, unlike ours. It's talked about. Things get around really fast. She said that they essentially have their own paparazzi. I loved how she encouraged her daughter to share about her own failure when she failed the driving test. And her daughter, because her daughter shared that and shared her own failure on that test, other people said, I did too. And so normalizing failure, that it is normal. I love the statement that failure is a down payment on success, just kind of normalizing it and embracing it. Again, shifting that mindset can be really, really powerful. And then asking your kid when they do fail, what do you want? What do you want to do about it? Like when Caroline failed to make one of her volleyball teams, and that happened several times. My husband had that conversation. What do you want to do? Do you want to be bitter or better? You have a choice in it. They do have agency and they do have say. I can't believe we are wrapping up this series already next week as we wrap up our series on teenagers and parenting. It's a conversation about teen dating and friendship. Again, Sissy, Niro, and John are going to be back for that conversation. And there's something Sissy said that totally shocked me. I can't wait to share it with you next week as we continue to talk about it on The Paula Ferris Show. I know you guys thought you were done with me, but not quite yet. I have one more thing to tell you about. If you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget to subscribe to the show. I don't want you to miss a single beat or a single conversation. And remember, my DMs are always open. Tell me what you want to talk about.